Hello, Dr. Weeks. Can you hear me?
Dr. Diaz, we can hear you.
Great. I can't really see the diocese. Do we have a quorum?
Madam Chair, we do have a quorum. We're getting ourselves collected here.
Hello, Dr. Weeks.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so Mr. Heel will be here in just
Can you
a
hear
moment. And then we will have a quorum and we'll get started.
Dr. Diaz, we can hear you.
Great. I can't really see the diocese. Do we have a quorum?
Madam Chair, we do have a quorum. We're getting ourselves collected here.
Hello, Dr. Weeks.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so Mr. Heel will be here in just
Can
a
you hear
moment. And then what's that? Or is this try it now? So, can you hear me in real time now?
Okay. I can hear you. Let me see if it plays back the feedback. So it sounds, okay, I don't hear myself anymore. So I think we are good to go.
Are we good to go, Troy? Troy says we're good to go. Madam Chair, you are free to call the meeting to order.
Okay, great. Well, thank you all for joining us. And I apologize that I'm not there in person. I am currently in Iowa for the week. So thank you for allowing me to join via Zoom. We will begin the meeting at 6:18 p.m. And may we please have the Pledge of Allegiance by Dr. Gonzalez. Thank you. And can we please have roll call?
Good evening. Dr. Laura Diaz,
Present.
Ms. Carmen Trujillo, present. Ms. Jessica Bueno, Mr. Rahino Carrillo,
Present.
Dr. Alicia Vink. Present. Thank you.
Thank you. And can I please have a motion to adopt the agenda? Or I apologize, Dr. Weeks, I want to modify the agenda. Do we still need to go through the motion first?
Yes, Madam Chair, you do a motion second, and then during the discussion, we'd modify the agenda and then take a vote.
Okay, great. Can I have a motion to modify the agenda, please?
Alicia Vink, so moved.
And do I have a second?
Roger Carrillo, I second.
Is there any discussion?
Mr. Quintana, did you want to describe how the modification of the agenda will look?
Yes, I made a request. Thank you, President Diaz, and good evening, governing board members. I made a request, Dr. Diaz, to move the item on the, which is F1, on the M&O override discussion to just prior to the curriculum and instruction area and right after consent agenda.
And I am okay with that. Is there any comments or concerns about that switch? Okay, so it sounds like everyone is okay with making that switch. So Dr. Weeks, would we just move forward with the vote, or do we have to do some type of amendment?
No, Madam Chair, we're free to make a vote to approve the agenda as amended, as discussed. Sorry.
Okay. All those in favor of approving the agenda as discussed, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. That the motion passes, and we'll move on to item 5, awards and recognition.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the governing board. Dr. Victor Diaz, who is our normal MC for Star Awards, is unavailable this evening, so you're going to have to put up with me. And it is my pleasure to invite the governing board members down to the floor. And we will begin to respectfully congratulate our special thanks and recognition award winners. So this evening, our first Star Award winner goes to Curtis Johnson. Curtis Johnson. Curtis is our before and after school program coordinator, and he does a lot more, much more. Curtis and his incredible team have always been an integral part of the Phoenix #1 community and their selflessness, problem solving, and whatever's best for kids in our community approach to each day made it possible for our teaching staff to work remotely. Curtis and team are the heroes responsible for launching and supporting learning labs this entire school year so that we remained in compliance with government mandates while our schools remained physically closed. Now that our buildings are open, the team is still working to support our schools by providing additional assistance in classrooms and, as always, in whatever capacity best allows schools to complete the important work of teaching our students. Thank you, Curtis, and the entire peer and learning lab staff for making our year of at-home learning possible. Some of the words used to describe Curtis are team player, dedicated, and visionary. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Curtis Johnson. And while he's coming up, I'll say that I've had the pleasure of working with Mr. Johnson since I came on board to the district. And Curtis, you are an outstanding, valuable asset to this district. You support our students in incredible ways in both peer, athletics, and just about everything else that needs to be done. Thank you so much for the work that you do.
Wonderful. Thank you.
So you got to stay up here for pictures.
Okay.
But you can bump elbows with the board members if you want to.
Don't expect anything incredible in there. It's all about you being a star.
Oh, sure. Thank you. Our next Star Award winner is, I don't see her in the room this evening, Pat Rogel, Human Resources Technician, Substitute Specialist. The pandemic and reopening of schools have presented many challenges, but few have been as significant as maintaining our substitute teacher systems. Pat owns her position with a daily mission to ensure all students have access to great instruction, even when their teacher is absent. Pat has worked tirelessly and relentlessly to provide each school with multiple permanent substitutes while also finding great subs for long-term leaves. This is no small challenge during a sub-teacher shortage and the pandemic. 3 words used to describe Pat are compassionate, committed, and relentless. Pat Rogel. Our third Star Award winner is Julio Lopez Hernandez, desktop publisher in MIS. Julio is positive, caring, and dedicated to his job. He often goes out of his way to make deliveries to school sites when they're under a time crunch to make sure the schools have what they need for their students and families. He approaches every task with a positive attitude and is open and willing to learn new things to help the team and other departments where he can. 3 words that describe Julio are supportive, dedicated, and positive. Julio Lopez Hernandez. And as always, I'd like to thank all of our Star Award winners. We appreciate you greatly. Thank you so much. And thank you, Governing Board, for participating. We will make sure that these Star Award winners get their certificates. Moving on. On Wednesday, April 21st, in celebration of Earth Day and empowering healthy habits for all generations, Fry's Food Stores, Head Chef, and the Mullen Foundation, a local nonprofit educating schools and communities to transform their lives by adopting healthy habits. We're at Garfield School to teach students effective ways to feed the earth using food scraps. Students learn how food scraps can be used to cultivate a whole new garden. Special thanks to Fry's Food Stores and the Mullen Foundation for continuing this partnership that promotes and encourages healthy habits with our students and families. Capital School launched a book challenge and a bike giveaway for all students in grades K-8. Students had to read 30 minutes a day from May 10th through May 20th for a chance to win a bike. For every 30 minutes read, students received raffle tickets that were entered in the prize drawing. Capital School awarded 8 bikes to deserving students at the end of the challenge. A special thanks goes out to the Arizona Masons Lodge number 2 for donating the bikes as part of their Bikes for Books program. We appreciate their support of Capital School and for helping to instill the love of reading with our students. In April, 4 Phoenix #1 schools submitted comprehensive literacy state development grants, and we are thrilled to announce that Garfield was one of the grant recipients. Garfield will receive $888,888 over the next 5 years to improve child literacy skills and instructional capacity on the science of reading. A huge shout out and thanks goes to Ashley Zeck, ELA Curriculum Alignment Specialist, for collaborating with our schools in writing the grant, and to Ms. Alicia Zelvis, who's with us this evening, Director of Student Services, who facilitated the grant submissions to the state. Congratulations to Garfield, and we're excited to see how this grant impacts the lives of our students. Well, that's a lot of money. Feel free to clap. As we just completed the AZM2 testing window, we wanted to celebrate the efforts of our teachers and students for their hard work during the assessment window and for ensuring students took the state mandated test despite all of the challenges we face this year due to COVID-19. We are proud to announce 90% of students completed all tests, including reading, writing, and math, and 5 schools had a 95% completion rate or higher, including Bethune, Herrera School for the Arts and Dual Language, Magnet Traditional, Shaw Montessori, and Whittier. In addition, Phoenix Elementary's AZM2 completion percentages were higher than the state's percentages. A huge shout out goes to all of our teachers for their perseverance in ensuring all of our students completed their tests, and to our IEIS's testing liaisons, principals, and other staff for their work to ensure that we not only administered the test, but we did so safely and securely. It was amazing to work with this committed group of educators to accomplish something like this during a pandemic. We also want to thank the child nutrition staff, nurses, social workers, and transportation departments for supporting in-person and online students to successfully complete AZM2. Boy, that was a mouthful and a huge lift. Congratulations to all the folks. Emerson School is hosting several free summer camps for Phoenix #1 students in 4th through 8th grade from June 7th through July 2nd. The camps include a mural camp where 6 local artists will paint murals with students. Desert Design, a neighborhood designer, and botany enthusiast will work with students to create an outdoor setting in the school's courtyard. Coding and web design, a remote teacher along with site supervision from Learn to Code Live will teach coding and web development. And Phoenix Youth Circus Arts, a program run by a community member, will teach aerial, aerobatics, and performance art. To learn more about these free summer camps, parents can find information on their schools or the district's Peach Jar flyer boards. Wow, that sounds like a lot of fun. Congratulations to Garfield and Emerson schools for earning the No Place for Hate designation for the 2021 school year from the Anti-Defamation League of Arizona. Garfield and Emerson were one of 37 schools across the state who received this designation, and it's the 2nd year in a row for Garfield. The No Place for Hate program is a holistic school-wide approach to improving school climate that amplifies students' voices and creating the school they want and leverages family members to achieve their school climate goals. Congratulations to Garfield and Emerson on earning this distinction, especially in an unprecedented pandemic year. We are proud of your accomplishments and instilling a safe school environment where there is no place for hate. Six students from Capital School had their artwork selected for display at Young Arts Arizona. The artwork will be on display through September and then will be part of the traveling art exhibit at several government buildings in Phoenix, including the state capitol, Secretary of State's office, and the Parsons Family Health Center. Students selected to have their artwork displayed are Alicio Duarte Bersain. Am I pronouncing that right? 2nd grade, Arendira Sikotenko, grade 8, Kimberly Salazar, 5th grade, Bruno Madrid Ortiz, 6th grade, Sean Lyons, 7th grade, and Kylie Gallo, 7th grade. Congratulations to those students and their fantastic art. We are excited to announce that Phoenix Elementary District had 5 students accepted into the ASU Hispanic Mother-Daughter Program. The Hispanic Mother-Daughter Program is an early outreach middle and high school program designed to increase the number of first-generation Arizona students to enroll in Arizona State University through direct family involvement. The Hispanic Mother-Daughter Program was originally designed to serve Hispanic mothers and their daughters. Although the program has retained its name, neither gender nor ethnicity are used as a consideration for participation in the program. Selected students will embark on a 5-year program starting in their 8th grade year by attending monthly workshops at ASU and having an assigned advisor through high school as they prepare for higher education. This year's recipients include Haley Martinez from Edison School, Lupita Rowe from Edison, Miguel Robles, Hurd School, Tiffany Serrano Romero, Hurd School, and Diemi Pilon, Kenilworth School. Because this was a challenging year for candidates to go through the interview process due to the COVID-19 pandemic, ASU will host another recruitment session for 8th grade students in the early fall of 2021. A big thank you to all of the school personnel that assisted interested candidates with their application process. Has anybody been involved with the Hispanic Mother-Daughter Program? It's a fantastic program, been around a long time. So yes, we can clap for it. Our partners at Southwest Behavioral Health Services are providing a summer program at Dunbar School for 15 Phoenix No. 1 students. The program will run from June 7th through June 25th and from July 12th through July 23rd on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays from 8 to noon. Students will participate in various activities like meditation, yoga, how to focus, managing emotions, getting along with others, and conflict resolution, to name a few. Students will also receive meals donated from St. Mary's Food Bank. We appreciate the efforts of Southwest Behavioral Health and Health Services providing this much needed summer camp. Yeah, that's a good one. Southwest is a good partner for us. We really appreciate their work there. The COVID-19 vaccine is now available for children 12 years of age and older. Phoenix Elementary is proud to partner with the Phoenix Union High School District to host vaccination sites at 14 schools throughout Phoenix to better serve our communities. And 2 of those vaccination locations will be right here in the Phoenix No. 1 district. The Spread Love, Not COVID Student Edition vaccination events will take place on June 11th and 12th. That's June 11th and 12th, and July 9th and 10th at Magnet Traditional School and Herrera School for the Arts and Dual Language. While at the vaccination clinics, families will also receive food boxes in June and backpacks and school supplies in July. More information will be available in the near future. That's a huge success for our community.
Weeks. You forgot one more. One more was forgotten, was the Phoenix One Foundation donation.
Did I miss one? Let me see. Oh, there it is. Thank you, Mr. Carrillo. I need new glasses, clearly. A special thanks is extended to the Phoenix One Foundation for their continued support of our teachers, students, and staff. They recently donated 2 $100 restaurant gift cards to be raffled to 2 staff members in recognition of their hard work and commitment to our students this past year. Congratulations, Holly Gillette, 7th and 8th grade social studies teacher at Edison, and Larry James, bus driver, who won the restaurant gift cards. We appreciate all that the Phoenix One Foundation does for our staff and students. Thank you for being great partners of the district. And Madam Chair, that concludes our long list of celebrations. But I will say that we're just getting started. The celebrations at Phoenix Elementary are everywhere and seen every day. All we have to do is look around. The things that people do for students, families in this district is incredible and has been for as long as I can remember. The only other thing, Madam Chair, if I could go ahead and roll into the superintendent's report, would that be okay?
Yep, that would be okay.
It's just to make an announcement regarding our ESSER-funded positions and stipends. Needs to be made clear. And I know that our Human Resources Department is doing just that. But our ESSER funds are limited dollars for a specific period of time. And when those dollars are no longer available to us, the expectation is that the stipends in those positions won't be sustained by the district. So I just wanted to make sure that the board is very aware, and then the community is very aware that these are one-time monies that we're going to use in very smart ways to support our students' learning, social emotional growth, and health and safety. So that needs to be said out loud, and for a lot of important reasons. As we look to the future in 23 and 24, we want to make sure that we remember it then as we remember it today. Finally, I just would like for us to slow down and reflect on the hard work that staff and all of us, board members, administrators, leaders, everyone in the Phoenix Elementary community, families, students, by coming together to work through the pandemic, has just been an incredible time. It's had its highs and lows emotionally, and it would just be my hope that we can pause for a moment and to reflect on this past year and to celebrate the things and the sacrifices that so many have given to the support of our students. Our child nutrition and transportation teams, our peer, our warehouse, maintenance, custodial staff, our human resources, our MIS, and for every department, a thought will pop into your head as to what supports they've provided for students. Student services, including nurses, social workers, and psychologists, our CNI team, our business services department, federal programs, all of our admin, our secretaries, our front office staff, the leadership that this district has shown in the face of this pandemic. And I'd also like to just reflect and acknowledge and appreciate the community that makes up Phoenix Elementary, the families who continue to support us, and the students who continue to rely on us and place their trust in us. If we could just take a moment to pause and reflect on that for just a moment, I think that's just it's just appropriate as we come to the end of our school year this year, and to celebrate the Phoenix Elementary family for all of our hard work to come together to do to provide the very best for students. And Madam Chair, that concludes my reports.
Thank you, Dr. Weeks, and I couldn't agree more. This has definitely been an interesting and challenging year, and I know that all hands have been on deck and continue to move forward in the best interest of our students and families. So thank you all so appreciated. Dr. Weeks,
Madam Chair, I didn't hear you, but I think you asked whether or not we had any community communications, and no, we do not. No community communications tonight.
Okay, sounds good. And I apologize for my reception. I might go in and out. So I'll move this along. We'll move on to item D. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Alicia Vink, so moved.
And do I have a second?
Reggie Carrillo, I second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Dr. Weeks,
Aye.
I thought, were you not-
Oh, you know what, Madam Chair? Thank you, Dr. Vink. Yes. There is an adjustment, Madam Chair, to item D9. So I would like to pull item D9 administratively and approve the consent agenda with the adjustment that Tricia Chupp has rescinded her resignation. She no longer wants to resign from the district. She wants to stay. She's a third grade teacher at Garfield. So in the minutes, if we could strike that resignation and approve the consent agenda with that adjustment, administration would be very much appreciative. Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Vink.
Okay, all those in favor of the consent agenda as discussed, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed say nay. Okay, hearing none, the motion passes and we will move on to item F1.
Thank you. First, I wanted to thank the board for adjusting this item on the agenda. We have a couple of partners of ours that are coming in externally to join us for this discussion. And we're hoping to have discussion already on the meeting, and that way they can carry on with their evening. So appreciate the change. I will be introducing them in a minute as well. So this discussion is around the M&O override. And we want to ask you this evening to approve the call for M&O override election this coming November. And prior to that, we wanted to provide some more context and maybe some more information and answer questions that you might have about the process and that we'll be going through over the next several months. Back in February, we had a presentation that was made by Ms. Randy Stein from Stifel Public Finance. And she's here this evening to help us address any questions that you might have as well. And because of the fact that we did this a couple of months ago, we want to make sure that we provide the board an opportunity to ask any questions about the process or things that you might have questions about, before we go on to the next step of the process, which is going to include the resolution, that we're going to cover this evening. So first of all, are there any? We also provide the packet that was presented back in February in the board docs. So are there any questions that we can answer? For that. Okay, great. So this would be a call for election in November, and it's the previous time that we did this was back in 2017, and basically the M&O was approved for a 7-year period, and we're going here basically in the 4th year of that. But in one way is to basically do a continuation of the M&O, and instead of having to go to the 7th year. So that basically is a benefit to the community also because there's no increase in the tax rate that, by doing a continuation. And also just as a matter of practice, it is a good idea for the district to be doing this, in the 4th, 5th year instead of letting it ride out for the full 7 years. And that's something that we've been doing for several times now, and that's a good practice for us to follow. The other thing I want to mention is that this M&O override, it provides basically about $5 million, to our M&O and our funding. But also it's not an increase in our funding. This is something that we've been getting over several years. But it's also a way that we can help us to alleviate the issue of declining enrollment. So this is one of the things that we can do to alleviate a little bit the concern that we have with declining enrollment over the years. And so I wanted to make sure that you understood that this $5 million increase in our budget it's not necessarily an increase. It's just a continuation of funding that we've had over the last, basically several years. Yeah. And also we indicated in the last election, and I'll continue the same, this year, is that the focus on the funding for this is going to be for class size and to maintain it at a proper level. We also want to provide additional support for instructional programs for reading, writing, mathematics, science, and we're also going to be adding social studies to this year's election. And also we're going to be adding it's kind of a way to be able to deal with the equity issues that we're dealing with in our equity plan. So we want to be able to add a component in here that helps us to put the equity plan in place, a little more, a little easier. So with that, if there's no questions, we want to continue with the resolution. I did want to again introduce Ms. Randy Stein. First of all, because they've been very instrumental in helping us over the years with this whole process, along with the bond overrides that we'll be doing, probably next year. The folks from Stifel Public Finance have been a great partner for us. So I want to make sure that you knew the person that has been helping us with that effort and expertise. And also at this point, I'll introduce also Mr. Jim Gill. He is with Gust and Rosenfeld, and helping us with the legal aspects of this this process. And he will be covering the resolution that we're asking you to approve this evening. So with that, Jim, if you don't mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Jim Gill with Gust Rosenfeld. We're the district's election counsel and bond counsel, and happy to be in that position. The resolution before you, as Mr. Quintana explained, is just simply a continuation of the district's existing 15% M&O maintenance and operations override. You've had it in effect for many years now. It's due to start expiring in a couple of years, so it makes sense to come back while we can still call this what we call a continuation election. No tax increase, just continuing what's already in effect. So the resolution before you obviously orders the call of the election, orders the completion of a voter information pamphlet. You might recall that every school district is required to prepare a voter information pamphlet which spells out the information and the financial impact on the voters. And we'll work with the county on that. We'll draft it. Ms. Stein and her team will review it, as will the district. And we'll work with the county to get that to every household in the district with a registered voter. So that's a big part of the election process. So this resolution orders the completion of that and delegates the district staff the authority to work with us in the county to do that. It also delegates to the district staff the authority to enter into an IGA. It's called a menu of services with the county. As you know, the county really runs the election. So that's an important step in the process as well. You'll notice the resolution contemplates both either a polling place or a mail ballot election. We fully anticipate in the county it will be an all mail ballot, no traditional polling places, but we just like the flexibility. So we build it into the resolution in case there's some last minute change. So we don't have to come rushing back to the board, but we do anticipate this will be an all mail ballot election. The resolution establishes August 6th, which is the county's deadline for members of the public to submit pro-con statements, up to 200-word pro-con statements. We'll be coming back to the board at a later date for you to approve your pro statement. Remember, it's an up to 200-word statement that you as a board will agree on. You will get the first pro statement in the voter information pamphlet. You just have to get that done by August 6th. The resolution also approves the form of ballot, the form of election notices, as well as the form of notice requesting pro-con or for and against statements. That's something we'll have to post on the district's website once we have a Spanish translation available. That's basically the resolution in a nutshell. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to address any questions on the resolution or on the election process in general.
So in terms of the election process, what involvement does the district, or not even the district, but what involvement does anybody stakeholder have in terms of getting out the vote, if at all? Like, where does the participation with the district and going into the community start and end, if it starts at all?
Oh, good question. We do have a statute you might be referring to, 15511, which specifically says school district resources shall not be used to attempt to influence the outcome of an election. And that's a very broad statute, intentionally so. A school district resource is really anything you control, tangible, intangible, email, postage, vehicles, staff, whatever. It's anything you control that cannot be used to influence the election. So there's specific things we need to do that I covered in terms of the voter information pamphlet, the ballot, things of that nature that we obviously have to do. It's when we step beyond that we have to question, is this something that's designed to try to persuade someone to vote one way or the other? So we stay away from that stuff. I do have a couple of memos that I'll share with district staff and they can share with you. But as a board member, you don't lose your ability to go out and be part of the pack, be part of whatever you'd like to do to attempt to persuade. You're not doing that. You're not doing that in your official capacity. You're doing that in your capacity as a citizen. So you're allowed to do that, but I just encourage you to not blur the lines. So don't take advantage, and I'm not saying you do this, but don't take advantage of some assets that you might have control over just because you are a board member with the school district, you're a senior staff member with the district. So treat it like any other individual in the community. You have the same rights to go out and do that. If senior staff or board members wants to make formal statements about the resolution or about the election, I'd encourage you to look at the voter information pamphlet once we have that, because that's really the document that lots of eyes are review it over a couple of or over a month or more. So my point is it's tested well. It's got all the facts. It's got all the figures, all the numbers. So if you use the voter information pamphlet, once it's available as a script in a way, it'll, I think, serve you well. It's when you step away from that and you're advocating for the election as a board member that, things get a little dicey. So, but I'd also encourage you, if the district wanted to do something other than the voter information pamphlet in terms of frequently asked questions or whatever it might be, feel free to run it by me. I'd encourage you to do so, to let me have a look at it. I can be fairly objective with these things in terms of, how it might be perceived in the public. So I just caution you to be careful because, we've seen districts get called to the carpet, so to speak, for advocating. And, there are eyes on a district this size.
Thank you. I was just understanding the rules of engagement from a board member to a private citizen. So thank you. That's a good response.
Absolutely.
Are there any additional questions?
So thank you, Jim. Thank you, Randy. Thank you, Martine. This is a very exciting time for our governing board and for our district to be able to sustain one of the revenue sources that we can by leaning into approving a resolution for a call for the election. Doesn't appear to be any more questions.
So I see here that we would vote tonight to adopt the resolution. So do I have a motion to adopt item F1?
Alicia Fink, so moved.
Do I have a second?
Reginald Carrillo, I second.
Are there any additional questions? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Okay, hearing none, the motion passes, and we will move on to item E1.
Thank you, President Diaz, community members, governing board members, and cabinet. This is a receive and discuss item on Algebra 1 as requested by the board. And I would like to invite Mrs. Lisa Fryer, our math curriculum alignment specialist, to the podium to share information with you regarding Algebra 1 within our school district. That very first slide, of course, we are focused on our strategic plan goals as well as our curriculum audit recommendations. And the having Algebra 1 in our school district truly is about equity and ensuring that our students have access to what they need. We have students that are ready for Algebra 1. The data says so. Their teachers and parents agree, and therefore they are involved in Algebra 1. So
Wrong one. Sorry.
there it is, yeah. You can go to the next slide, Mr. Harris, and then the next slide. One more.
Good evening, President Diaz, Superintendent Weeks, governing board members, and community members. My name is Lisa Fryer. I am the math curriculum alignment specialist for the district. Like Dr. McLaughlin said, there was a request to get some information about algebra. So I do have 3 slides for you. The first one talks about our current program. The second one about some research revolving around algebra. And then our third slide is what we're proposing for next year. So as you can see on this one, right now we have 2 programs running in our district that just finished yesterday. As you can see, Magnet Traditional has had an algebra class for the last few years, taught by one of our very own teachers, Mr. Christopher Davis. The students at Magnet will take 2 math classes a day. So they take their regular 8th grade math in addition to their algebra class. The students are able to earn high school credit by completing passing the AQT, which is the Algebra Qualifying Test, which most of them do pass. So then this year, moving on to the third column there on the slide, in order to provide an equitable opportunity for the students that don't attend Magnet, this year we started a partnership with Phoenix Union High School District. So Phoenix Union provided us so kindly with a high school teacher who taught an algebra class to 6 of our students. It was online, live, every day, 5 days a week. And there were kids from all different schools within our district. These students did go straight from 7th grade to 8th grade, to algebra. However, due to the very small class size and that was a live teacher, she was able to fill in any gaps in content that were needed at that time. All the students in the class were successful. They all passed the class and they all earned their high school credit in 8th grade. And I did get some good feedback from parents on that too. So we're very proud that that first year worked out well. Any questions on that? We can go to the next slide. Mr. Harris. Oh, am I doing it? Oh, okay. We're not. There we go. All right. So this slide just summarizes some of the research that is surrounding algebra. So there was this trending thought back in the 90s and the early 2000s that students in the US needed to take 8th grade algebra in order to take a higher level math course in high school. And the thought was that that would make the United States more competitive in STEM careers. However, over time, the research showed that this movement really didn't actually have the intended effects. And data show that the increased number of students taking algebra in 8th grade did not correlate to an increased number of students taking a higher level math as a senior in high school. So the most current recommendations can be found in the appendix of the Common Core Standards. And in that document, there's two main recommendations. The first one is to compact classes. So what that means is you would take 3 years of math and combine it into 2 school years. So it would be an accelerated pace, but nothing would be skipped. So specifically, you would take 7th grade math, 8th grade math, and algebra all combined into the last 2 years of middle school. So that's the first recommendation. The second one in the Common Core appendix says that students can double up in high school. So for example, as a sophomore, you could take geometry and algebra 2. And therefore that could get you to your goal of taking a higher level math course as a senior, if that was your chosen goal, right? So if we think about those two recommendations here at Phoenix L, and how we could apply those. Well, first, unfortunately, not yet, we don't have enough students to create a class to do the compacted option. Hopefully we'll get more students as over time. And secondly, we're not a K-12 district, so we don't really have control over saying students should take 2 years or can take double up their high school math classes as a sophomore or junior. However, that option does always exist. I did talk to my colleague over at Phoenix Union, and she said, absolutely, if one of your kids decides later they want to take 2 years of math in a year, they always have that option. So what we've done is come up with a structure that we think will meet the needs of our students here. And what we're planning to do for next year for our 8th graders who really, truly are up for the challenge is to have them double up on their math courses in 8th grade. So they'll take their 8th grade math in addition to an algebra class, which is what Magnet is doing right now and having success. So, and I'll go more into that on the next slide, unless there's any questions on this one.
I have a question. So how does the high school know that the student in 8th grade took those 2 math classes in algebra? Are we sending them the transcript, the file from their student, the CUME folders?
Right. So they would receive a high school transcript that would show that if they're taking the class through ASU Prep Digital, which is what we're proposing for next year, they will get a high school transcript that shows that they took that class. If they chose to go to a different high school, not a Phoenix Union high school, because we know that they'll accept, they can take the AQT test, and if that high school that they choose to go to accepts that.
Thank you. And then the follow-up question, for the program, I would call it a pilot program, where the students did their algebra and passed. Was that done through the ASU Prep Plus Digital too? And they passed with that?
The current one that we just finished this year, that was actually through Phoenix Union High School District. So it was a Phoenix Union High School teacher, Phoenix Union High School class. So yeah, that was a simple transfer to one of those schools.
Yeah, because then I'm thinking about if it'll have the same efficacy, thinking about, of course, stuff we probably don't have answer now, but thinking about the efficacy of ASU Prep and Digital supporting this program.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Well, yeah. All right. So for next year, what we're proposing is that obviously Magnet has had success in their program, so they're going to continue what they're doing. And then what we're going to do is partner up with ASU Prep Digital using our in-kind services and have the students will log on during their intervention block, which is built into their school day, 4 days a week. And they're going to work on the self-paced asynchronous class for 4 days. And then on the 5th day, they will log in live with a teacher and other classmates from our district as well as from surrounding local districts. They also are asked to get on a phone call or a Zoom call once a week, one-on-one with ASU Prep's Learning Success Coach, who is another adult who's going to check in, make sure that they're doing well and how they're doing. The students will be taking their 8th grade math class with their peers at their school in addition to this class. And then what we just kind of mentioned, depending on what high school they're attending, they will be able to earn their high school credit, either by simply passing the course because they will get a high school transcript, or they can take the AQT test if that is what their chosen high school is asking for. We realize it's a small program right now. We don't have a whole lot of students who are qualifying, but we're just hopeful that over time we'll be able to grow the program and have more success. Any questions?
This is Dr. Diaz. I apologize, but my internet went out, I think, for most of the presentation, and I've been trying to reconnect. So you might have already answered some of these questions. I was recently reading an article about California and their move, or at least proposed move, to rethink their math structure. And similar to what you presented in the beginning, they are not recommending solely one Algebra 1 class in 8th grade due to the research of the impact of skipping grades and whatnot. Rather, they are ensuring that all students, regardless of what level they are taking the same grade level math class. And their grade level math class is said to be, the way they're structuring it, more rigorous than your regular 8th grade math class. So for instance, they indicate that Algebra 1 components are integrated into your 8th grade math class. So by the time they get into 9th grade, they will have already had those foundational components within Algebra 1, and they're ready to move on to higher math. So my question is, are we at a place to bring up all students into a math class that does get them ready for high school and that is more rigorous? Because it can happen.
Right. So the Common Core standards, it took a lot of the algebra standards that were previously in 9th grade have since moved to 8th grade. So that essentially has happened just by default, that if we're teaching our state standards, we are preparing them because those 8th grade standards are a lot more rigorous than they used to be. Same with the 7th grade and the 6th grade. If you have a minute, there was a video I put on there that maybe that shows a graphic of that happening. So that is built in to our Arizona state standards.
Mm-hmm. I personally am not a fan of limiting students based solely on test scores for this type of program. I can understand the rationale, but I think if a student is interested in pursuing a second class, I don't see why we wouldn't be able to give them the opportunity.
Right. So when we were looking at who we thought would be the most successful in the class, because we do want to set the kids up for success, right? So we looked at a lot of data, 5 different data points, actually. So I looked at their iReady diagnostic to make sure that they were successful in their 7th grade content, first of all. And then after that, looked at the last 4 years of data, 7th grade Galileo, 6th grade Galileo, AZ Merit from 4th grade, AZ Merit from 5th grade, keeping in mind that the last 15 months, some of those assessments may have been taken at home, right? So we don't know, how accurate those were. So we try to look at all those. We gave some, so I was looking for students that were highly proficient in the majority of those assessments. Also, since the ASU prep class is going to be asynchronous 4 days a week, I was trying to get a sense of how the students were as independent learners And so on their iReady, our math program, they take the diagnostic, they get a personalized learning path, right, where they get digital lessons based on what they need. And they're supposed to, the district has asked that the students are doing that 20 minutes a day. And so what I did is look to see, are the students doing that? Are they getting online, being independent learners, being motivated? Because that's how the ASU prep class would be very similar, since they are going to be asynchronous for a lot of the time. Also talk to the teachers or ask the teachers for their input based on what they've seen with study skills and motivation and study habits. So try to look at it from all those different perspectives. I did have like one student who was kind of that the teacher recommended that I hadn't put on the list. And I said, okay, so he's a little low in his geometry score in the geometry domain of his testing. Would he be willing to, work on his iReady a little bit over the summer and kind of bring that up so he'd be ready to go? And so she talked to the family. Nope, they would not. So, so we're trying to be flexible on if the student who maybe doesn't have the test scores, but we really do want to set them up for success. So I'm open to talking to other families if they have a student that they feel like would benefit from the program. Sure.
And I completely understand that rationale, and it definitely makes sense. I just get worried about the concept of tracking. And at such young ages, by tracking students into or not into these advanced, quote unquote, advanced classes and whatnot, we could be deterring them from a STEM, a pursuit in a STEM career, or, any other type of college pathway that, they might have really wanted to pursue, but maybe they don't feel like, oh, I'm not really good at math because I didn't get into that advanced math class. So I get it. I see that we're moving incrementally to this model, but I really want us as a district to think about the tracking concept and how do we, because all kids are capable of success. So how do we, as a district, as leaders, as educators, provide the necessary tools and the resources so any student who wants to go into a Algebra 1 class as a second class can be successful. It's our responsibility to make sure that happens if they want to choose that path.
We can absolutely look into that further, for sure.
Dr. Diaz, I hear you. This is Alicia, by the way. Sorry if you can't see me. And I agree. And in the interest of doing that, is it possible I had asked about kind of marketing the program, and I think the response was, it's not really something that is being marketed, but is it possible to, at the beginning of the year or now over the summer, do an interest form and just say, are you interested in, not necessarily that we're doing it, but collect and see how many families or students are interested in participating in this. And then if there is, enough interest, then you decide at that point whether or not you can extend, not necessarily just to people whose test scores fit the profile you were looking for.
We most certainly are not gatekeepers for kids excelling. We do agree that every student is capable of success. We can certainly do that. Right now, I think we have 6 students that qualified based on test scores, yes, but also teacher recommendations. Last year, we had a family member say, no, I don't want this for my child. I don't want my child to have this much pressure, even though my child is very capable of that. And the child was very appreciative, ended up passing everything in 8th grade, and therefore Ms. Fryer worked with the teacher to move that child along in still remaining in the 8th grade classroom, but getting differentiated instruction. We can certainly put this out to folks and let them know that this is available. We are very concerned about we never want to put a student in a situation where they're going to feel unsuccessful and defeated and hate math for the rest of their educational career. So I think we need to be careful. But we can certainly put it out there that this is available and see if there are other interested students, families.
Dr. McLaughlin, I would love to, before it goes out, I would love for the board to see that as an update or even an agenda item, if that's easier. Just because I think it's important to understand the description of how it's being articulated to families and parents, and the rationale behind why we would even ask them something like this. I agree, we don't want any student to hate math. At the same time, we don't want to leave out students who might not feel confident, but could have otherwise thrived if they are in the right environment.
Agreed. And Dr. Gonzalez will get that to you.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and move on to item E2.
Thank you, President Diaz, governing board members, cabinet and community members. This item is request for approval of a kindergarten classroom at Faith North. As you know, currently we only have preschool at Faith North. ADE requires that the board provide approval when a school district administrators change the grade levels at a school. So we are coming to you tonight to present on this kindergarten that we would like to place at Faith North. Again, it goes back to providing for the needs of our students, that is equity, ensuring that each student receives the learning environment that he or she needs. And Mrs. Alicia Zelvis, our Director of Special Ed and Student Services, is going to describe for you what this transitional kindergarten looks like.
Good evening, Madam President, esteemed board members, Dr. Weeks, and members of the Phoenix One community. I am so excited to represent my colleague, Diane Salazar, and the work that we've done to establish the proposal for a kindergarten at Faith North. We feel that this is really important, especially due to COVID-19 school closures, offering additional kindergarten space for our families so that our children can have a smaller class size. We recognize that our pre-K students did not receive a full preschool experience during the time of closures as well. There's a lot of pressure on our kindergarten teachers to provide a kindergarten experience that's still fast-paced in curriculum, but also prepare children for their school age years and make sure that we're addressing those social emotional needs, those adaptive needs, and things that we offer in our preschool programs heavily. I'd like to share with you the mission statement for Faith North. As you see, Faith North is a very well-rounded offering for an early childhood education. It's very child-centered. It's collaborative with the parents. We offer community support as much as education in the classroom. Our parents are vital in the process for education of our preschool students at Faith North. This extension and support would be a great benefit to our families as they're transitioning their children to kindergarten and allowing them that additional experience. And it truly supports our mission statement. So, transitional kindergarten. The pilot program would offer a developmentally appropriate kindergarten program that consists of concrete experiences. So additional concrete experiences and connections, additional guided play, and that individualized instruction in a supportive environment. So we do these things in kindergarten, but we're looking at a couple different ways of approaching it in a transitional kindergarten. This would still be establishing the kindergarten standards, but we would be offering a little mix or twist of those preschool experiences that provides more education through guided play. Each year we do, this is just a little data to kind of give you an idea of what we're facing. Several students transition from our level 2 classrooms. And I know Diane explained to you how our preschool classrooms work, our level 2, our 1s, 2s, and our 3 level classrooms. Our level 2 classroom are students that are half students with disabilities and half students that are typically developing. Data reveals that we do have several students from those classrooms in preschool that still end up in a level C, or what we call a self-contained, like a specialized special education environment once they start kindergarten. That's a very restrictive environment. We know that facts are that once a child is placed in a self-contained environment, the likelihood of them leaving a self-contained environment and are exiting, graduating, whatever you may say, into a classroom that has a higher opportunity for working with their non-disabled peers is less likely. So we strive to really work at providing that least restrictive environment and exposing them to as many of their typical peers as possible very early on, and making sure they're exposed to that rigor. Our goal here, as we know that those level C classrooms, I won't get too far into the weeds with our special education data, because I'll have a whole nother presentation for you on that, I'm sure, very soon. But our self-contained data as a district is we are a little overrepresented of children at that level of service in our schools. So basically we have more kids in our special education specific classrooms than the average for the state. So we are looking to try to resolve that so we can continue with the rigor. And we do feel that offering a transitional kindergarten will offer that smaller class size, that ability to rebuild those skills, give them an additional opportunity by the time they start first grade. So we're not considering a level C or a more restrictive placement. So I explained a little bit about how a transitional kindergarten would be different from a typical kindergarten program. Now, all of these things, again, are things offered in kindergarten, but these would be a higher focus in the transitional kindergarten. So the National Association for the Education of Young Children defines developmentally appropriate practice as those methods that promote each child's optimal development. So it's very individualized, focused, and meeting kids where they are in their development. Just as we do in preschool, we really look to explore and develop developmentally appropriate practice, strength-based building. And so playing on kids' interests and building their education through discovery, through play, and offering those opportunities in like center-based type environments and more interactivity than the direct instruction, if that makes sense. So the guided play, it gives educators opportunities to use those children's interests, their favorite toys, to teach them their colors and their shapes and those kind of things, and build that language, those vocabulary concepts based on activity and play and interactivity with other kids. And then it also provides a more inclusive environment. So we are looking at a very strategically placed amount of individuals, students that we've looked at their needs and where they are, and are they ready for a larger preschool classroom independently at this point, or do they need something that's a little more focused on that preschool type setting, but with kindergarten standards and rigor? Okay, so this would be allowing them to practice a fully inclusive classroom without the need to enter a special education specific classroom at the kindergarten age. So here are the benefits that we really are advocating for this and this program. So special education students would have access to their least restrictive environment, or we call LRE many times, as required by the Individuals with Disabilities in Education Act. Students would be more likely to be successfully moved from transitional kindergarten to a traditional first grade classroom. We do anticipate that because they still will be exposed and learning from those kindergarten standards, they're still going to be measured in kindergarten early childhood measurements, that this supportive environment will be able to close those gaps that we see that maybe they missed in their preschool or non-preschool experience. Then also, this determination was made because of parent feedback from the February 2020's community parent survey that indicated that parents are interested in a smaller learning venue for their youngest learners in our district. And we're going to be able to do that by opening an additional kindergarten classroom. And then also the addition of a kindergarten classroom, this is more of a financial aspect as well, at Faith North will reduce our district outlay for meals, because right now we qualify for meals under a different funding source. So early childhood centers do not qualify for the same funding that we receive in K-8 schools. And this will actually alleviate some of that budget obligation in our preschool and at Faith North, because now we'll be eligible as a school age school at Faith North once we establish a kindergarten there to receive the same benefits that our K-8 kids get of the free lunch programs and those kind of things. Does anyone have any questions regarding the transitional K?
I do. You're saying that this is a pilot, so how long is this program intended to last?
So the kindergarten would this year is 1 year. The anticipation is that with success of this pilot program, that we would grow the program to not just a transitional kindergarten, but we also see the need for a transitional first grade. You know, many of our kids this year didn't experience kindergarten as kindergarten is typically established. And so this is funded with ESSER funds. So again, as Dr. Weeks mentioned earlier, he made it very clear that ESSER funds are for a short amount of time. And we really need to establish what we're going to be able to sustain and what we're going to be able to incorporate or absorb. The purpose of the pilot, are typically calling it a pilot, is because we will be using a different curriculum than what is established in our kindergarten programs. And this curriculum is a curriculum that's supported by the Department of Education and is something that they are encouraging that we adopt. And so the pilot aspect of it would be, not only are we looking at measuring how successful this fully inclusive program is for our learners that have disabilities and our non-disabled learners, but also how well can we roll out or implement or even access this curriculum for all of our kindergartners in the future. So the curriculum is called Creative Curriculum, and it's actually what we use for our 3 and 4-year-olds in preschool, but it does have a standard-based kindergarten curriculum as well that we have yet to access. And so we'll be using that creative curriculum that also goes along with the Teaching Strategies Gold assessment program, which is more of a portfolio and strength-based assessment than a test, like formal test-based assessment. And so those pieces would be what would actually technically call it establish it as a pilot, because that would be the first time we would be implementing this and collecting data to measure the success.
Thank you. And then can you clarify why that question was on the parent survey in 2020?
I can't, but I can find out.
I have just a couple questions. So regarding the curriculum that you're using, so that curriculum is then more child-centered and will provide guided play and things like that you've put in the presentation. And you are looking at possibly implementing that across the district and all of our kindergartens.
So at this point, discussions haven't gone that way, but the Department of Education, Arizona Department of Education, is encouraging creative curriculum to be something adopted and implemented in our kindergarten classrooms.
Okay.
We do have an ELA and math. We do have a curriculum set for our kindergarten. This is a comprehensive all areas curriculum. So it hits the 5 early childhood domains and all in one big package set, it's more like a thematic type approach to curriculum.
Okay.
So it is very different than how we have adopted unique programs for specific needs in our K-8 programs.
Okay. And then how inclusive are our kindergarten classrooms at the rest of our sites?
So we have the balance of percentage of our district. We already are considering least restrictive environment with every transition that we hold. We really encourage our school teams to come up with a plan and rule out any opportunity to not have them in a general education setting. So although we do have some kids that really just need a severe level of intervention in kindergarten, we do make that consideration already. We are at the same balance of children with disabilities in our kindergarten classrooms as we are for all ages. In kindergarten, we don't necessarily, we're still finding them if they didn't come to preschool or come in for child find screenings. And so we may start with a lower percentage of children with disabilities in the kindergarten classroom, then that actually becomes identified by the end of the year just for the fact that we haven't gotten our hands on them yet.
I see. Okay. And then just as a former kindergarten teacher, I heard you say child-centered. I heard you say collaborative with parents. I heard you say developmentally appropriate, guided play, concrete experiences. That is everything that I want to see in our district, across the district. And that's what I want to be the focus in all of our kindergartens. What is good for the learners with the highest needs is going to be good for all of our kids, right? Like if you can teach it to a kid who's really struggling, it's going to be great for the rest of our kids. And I would like to see this language in our marketing. I did actually pull up what we have written for our full day kindergarten on our website, and it is not that. So I mean, these things are amazing. And that is, I think this is what we should be doing in all of our classes. And I know that we said, yes, they are, but the focus should really be on developmentally appropriate practices. And my son has been in the kindergarten, so I can tell you that it is not everything that you said here today. And I think all of our students deserve that. I don't think I had any other questions, but I do understand the purpose for this, but I also don't think I'd want to see us move towards needing a transitional first grade. I'd rather see us implement this curriculum in all schools and then kind of move away from needing that transition, because all of our classrooms are providing this really developmentally appropriate, guided experience for students.
Right. Thank you. Any other questions?
Yes. So correct me if I'm wrong, but Faith North is a preschool designated site. So then, and we have 12 classrooms, is that correct? So then adding a kindergarten, the transitional kindergarten, is that indefinite? Because then I'm thinking, are we turning this designated preschool site into, or if like a K through, primary school, K through fifth, or, or will we continue to expand on that, making it not a designated preschool site? Or if it's just transitional, is this just temporary because we're trying to address the impacts of the pandemic and then like the transition's over for that pilot program?
Right. So we have a lot of options still. And as this is a pilot, I think this is going to give us more information to make better decisions moving forward of what is appropriate. Just as Dr. Fink mentioned, this may be the pioneer to drive some change in our kindergarten settings, or even support, creating a teacher with this experience that can support other kindergarten teachers and have these conversations about what they want kindergarten to look like. And at this point, there's still options open. We know that there's not a whole lot of room to add classrooms and growth at Faith North. So that's definitely a consideration that we need to make, is how long we do establish or keep that. And is this after this pilot period, will this be kind of like a signature program, or do we extend and make new plans to support our teams on our school campuses further?
Yeah, because I know that this is a designated preschool site, and how it would be viewed if it's an attempt to expand to a K through 8th grade school, if that's what it was built for. But if it works, if it's successful, yes, there are other opportunities to explore that. And then my other question, what would happen in the case that this isn't approved with those? So what happens with the preschool kids? Where do they go if this is not approved for that addition?
So we would be looking at their placement at their homeschool campuses and their kindergarten rooms.
Thank you. And then another question I have is, so with this, would it, from classroom sites, would it increase from 12 to 13 classroom sites at Faith North? Or are we like removing a preschool site, a classroom, and it stays at 12? Because I know you said it's limited.
So as Ms. Salazar described, there's going to be some movement next year with moving a dual language preschool to Herrera, and this will open up space for a classroom there. And then I do believe they have at least one other option for, and correct me.
That's correct. They have 14 classrooms. Yep,
so we're just kind of moving it into a space that was previously occupied by a preschool room as it leaves the campus.
So it'll stay 12 classrooms?
Yes.
Okay, and then will there be any dual language programs at Faith North then if we're moving it to Herrera?
Not next year.
Because I know that's what we put on our marketing.
Yeah.
So we'll have to address that then.
Okay.
Thank you, that's all.
Thank you.
President Diaz, governing board members, cabinet and community members, administration recommends the board approve the addition of a kindergarten classroom at Faith North.
Thank you, Dr. McLaughlin. Do we have a motion to approve item E2?
This is Alicia Vink, so moved.
Do we have a second?
Jessica Bueno, second.
Is there any additional discussion?
Excuse me, Madam President. Ms. Bueno.
Aye, as opposed to nay?
Yeah, since Ms. Bueno came in later after I did roll call, her name is not on the roll right now. And so I need somebody else to second the motion, please.
Carmen Trujillo, so moved.
Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say nay. Okay, with that, the motion passes and we'll move on to item E3.
President Diaz, governing board members, community members, cabinet. This is a request for approval of the purchase of Inspire, published by McGraw-Hill Education for K-2 Science. The board approved adoption of McGraw-Hill's Inspire program for our kindergartners through fifth graders on May 6th, 2020, to replace the core resources that were adopted in 2007. The district purchased and implemented the resources in grades 3 through 5 this school year, with a plan to implement K-2 for the upcoming school year. We did not want our kindergarten through second grade teachers to suffer from initiative fatigue. They had many new resources and we didn't want to add an additional resource onto them this school year. The cost of these resources is funded by our capital override. Administration recommends the board approve the expenditure of $625,000 for K-2 science resources from McGraw-Hill beginning May 2021 through July 2026.
Thank you, Dr. McLaughlin. Can I please have a motion to approve item E3?
Alicia being so moved.
And do I have a second?
Reggie Carrillo, second.
Is there any discussion? Dr. McLaughlin, so just to, this is Dr. Diaz, just to clarify, so with the curriculum adoption process that we just had, this was the resource that was designated for science.
That is correct, Dr. Diaz. Yes.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So we're just, so this is just to bring it to the K-2. 3-5 already has it.
Third grade through fifth grade. Students and teachers already have access to these materials. Yes, we are asking for these materials for our kindergarten, first and second graders and their teachers.
Great. That was all I had. Are there any additional questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed say nay. All right, and with that, the motion passes and we will move on to item G1.
We'll get her in there. We'll capture all her votes. Madam Chair, members of the governing board, administration requests approval of policy JKD as revised as a first reading. So although it says administration requests approval, we're not asking for your vote tonight. This is a first read of policy JKD. And this was as a request from the governing board. Council reviewed our policy and made the following recommendations. What I suggest is that we bring this policy back as a second read at the next governing board meeting. And if at the board's pleasure, adopt this policy as it reads, or with any nuance changes governing board members would like to make. And then give this as a tool to Dr. Alishire as him and his team review about 9 different policies related to discipline, student discipline. And so this would give that team another tool in their toolbox to build from. But at this time, all we're asking for the governing board is to accept it as a presentation, as a first read. And then I'll be in touch with you all in terms of preparing it for a second read. If you have suggestions or comments or recommended changes, feel free to go ahead and kind of send them my way. I know one board member has already made a comment, and I appreciate that. All right. Madam Chair, with your permission, I'd like to move on to G2. This is a request approval of policy IKFB, which is graduation exercises as a first and second reading. This was an emergency policy advisory handed down to us by the Arizona School Boards Association regarding graduation exercises. Graduation exercises will be held for students who have met state and local requirements for graduation from high school. So although this looks like a high school policy, it feels like a high school policy. It may not be 100% applicable to us. To me, it shows the signs of solidarity and respect to all of our communities with regards to what this policy has to say. And so I'm bringing it forward as a request to approve under what we call the emergency clause as a first and second read. So this one, you would take action on tonight, and if it was approved, would be embedded into our regular policy manual.
Thank you, Dr. Weeks. I don't know if my internet cut out again. Were you just giving an overview of the two policies, or are we going back to item G1 to discuss?
Well, we can do whatever the board wants, but the first policy was just simply a first read, so there's no voting. The second policy, the request is for the governing board to vote on what they call the policy adoption emergency clause on a first and second read at the same time. So I wouldn't be bringing this policy back at a later meeting. The board does have the authority to vote for a first and a second read under a single reading. And that's kind of where we are. What I would like to highlight for this IKFB is that, and what I like about this is students who wish to participate, let's see, students are allowed to, a student who is a member of a federally recognized Indian tribe or who is eligible to be enrolled as a member of a federally recognized Indian tribe may wear traditional tribal regalia or objects of cultural significance at a graduation ceremony. That's what I like about the policy. ASBA recommends that if we're going to adopt the policy, do it as a first and second read under the emergency clause, probably because it came at a time when high school graduations were coming through.
Thank you, Dr. Weeks. I do have a comment on item G1. I would just like for our second read, I really would like Dr. Vink's suggestions to be incorporated, or perhaps if there's two different options there. Dr. Vink, did you want to provide detail on your recommendations?
I think the first thing that we need is there was a request regarding how much data or what years of data I was looking for regarding all of the suspensions and disciplinary actions within the district. And I would like to see as much data as we can gather before we move forward. I think if we're going to amend this policy, we should do it right and be bold. And I think we need to see some data, and I need a greater understanding of where we're at before we do that. But I think I may have spent a few hours in the wee hours of the morning researching this, and there's countries that just do not do suspension at all, and there are definitely some states and districts moving towards that as well. So I would like to look at this boldly.
I would agree. I think we do, in order to make an informed decision, we do need that data. I personally am not in favor of K-5 suspensions, so I'd like that to be something we discuss on second read. And then Dr. Vink also brought up a great point for suspensions that exceed 10 days. I do think we need to have a discussion as a board on how those get approved, because that's a significant number of days to be suspended. And I know other districts, you have to have board approval in order to make that decision. So I think that's something we need to consider in this policy as well. Are there any other thoughts on item G1 before we move on?
Yeah, for me, I'm just thinking of our suspension rate. So that's something I'll ask for later in a board update. But my thoughts are just having a document that also reflects the kind of support we're also providing to these students who could possibly face suspension. And I know that it's going to Dr. Alshire. And so again, it's just having a document that reflects some kind of restorative justice strategies in there, or that are deterring the student from suspension. And then not just these are the warnings and documenting that, but also documenting what supports we provided the student or the family. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any additional comments? Right, hearing none, can I have a motion to approve item G2?
Alicia Vink, so moved.
Do I have a second?
Reggie Carillo, a second.
Is there any discussion?
This is Alicia. I do just want to mention that as it was promotion week, I did have the honor of seeing an 8th grade student at their home with their family in their traditional tribal regalia that their grandmother made for them, and it was wonderful. So this is so important, and I'm really proud of us for making sure this is a policy we have in place.
Thank you, Dr. Vink. Are there any additional comments? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. That the motion passes, and we will go ahead and adjourn to executive session at 9:58 p.m. Or Dr. Weeks, do I need a motion to adjourn?
Madam Chair, you do. It doesn't say so here, but we do need a motion and a second to adjourn to executive session. We don't need a motion or a second to return back to regular session, but we do need one to leave. So it would be my recommendation that administration recommends that the governing board adjourn to executive session.
Okay, thank you. And do I have a motion to adjourn?
Alicia Vink, so moved.
Do I have a second?
Reggie Carillo, a second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say nay. Okay, and we will adjourn to executive session at 7:59 p.m.
And we'll adjourn to the PDC like we did last time. Victoria is not able to get it. She was kind of. Okay. You have to let her in for it? Okay, no, we can let her in automatically.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I apologize for the horrible connection. Did we already approve the executive session item?
No, we're ready for you to call us back to resume regular session at the specific time.
Okay, we will resume regular session at 8:42 p.m. And can I please have a motion to approve item I-1?
Madam Chair, would you like me to read the motion? The administrative
Yes, please.
recommendation? So, Madam Chair, members of the governing board, administration recommends that the governing board approve the 21-22 Phoenix Elementary Classroom Teachers Association, PECTA, meet and confer recommendations with the following amendment. And the following amendment is to remove the word Mondays from page 5 of the agreement.
So with that, can I have a motion to apply the amendment?
Carmen Trujillo, so moved.
Do I
Bueno, second.
you it? And is there any discussion?
Madam Chair, can I provide clarity?
Yes.
So the amendment that the governing board is talking about here is on page 5 under early release day. Early release shall be reserved for the growth and professional development of all employees. We're eliminating a specific day of the week, primarily because the governing board approves and adopts district level calendars. And so we're pulling out the word Mondays from this sentence and leaving it to read early release shall be reserved for the growth and professional development of all employees.
Thank you, Dr. Weeks. Are there any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed say nay. And with that, the motion passes and we'll move on to item J1. Are there any board reports or requests?
Yes, I would like to share a board report. I want to just acknowledge why I was late today. Today was the launch of the City of Phoenix Land Reuse Strategy Task Force, which I am co-chairing. And I just wanted to share with our district of how important it is for this task force to be launched. This has been the aviation's buyout program that has impacted Anat, Herrera, and some of the East Lake neighborhoods. So I wanted just to share with you that part of the task force is making sure that the implementation plans for the land reuse strategy is enforced, meaning that the vacant parcels that the city owns will be developed. And being a major stakeholder with the district in that area, I felt that it was important for me to be late here. And I just wanted to be transparent on why I was absent in the beginning, but I just wanted to share the work that is being done to help redevelop the areas that serve our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bueno. Are there any additional board reports or requests?
Yes, I just wanted to acknowledge all of our 8th grade students that promoted over this last week, and I was able to attend a few of their ceremonies as were the rest of our board members. I think we did an incredible job trying to attend as many as possible. And I just want to acknowledge our students, their families, and our staff who really did an incredible job this year. I also have one request, and it is just to have a board update regarding the guidance to schools to request notification of student vaccination from parents. If that is something that we are going to do, if we are giving guidance to schools to request that information.
Can you repeat that, Dr. Vink? Board update regarding guidance?
Guidance to schools to request notification of student vaccination from parents. Are we requiring the schools to request that, basically?
Okay.
So Dr. Vink, are you talking about for next school year or?
Yes.
Okay.
No requests or reports?
Yes, so for me, I'm requesting a board update about that parent feedback from February's 2020 community forum, which indicated that they had an interest in smaller learning venues and how that expanded into a need for a transition kindergarten classroom at Faith North. And then so we can look at that and then update on what the marketing will be for Faith North. Because I know we have 2 dual language programs and we're removing that one dual language. So does the marketing need to be changed? Because I look back and my understanding was we just had one. So just an update on if that's going to change or not. And then following the suspension too, I would like to see our suspension rates from especially this year during the pandemic, and then comparing that to last year too. Is it possible? Well, I would say just for the past 3 years, because even last year it was like they got cut off in March. And so I want to see what our suspension rates look like for this policy. And then that's all. Thank you.
Dr. Diaz, this is Carmen Trujillo.
Are there any additional reports?
Yes, Dr. Diaz, I just wanted to echo Dr. Vink's comments on our 8th grade graduations, and I did get to attend a couple of those, and seeing, I mean, I've attended the in-person ones that we used to do a couple of years ago, as well as these ones, and I have to say these drive-by ones, or I guess just the individuality of each school that I did get to attend, was almost more intimate, I think. So I just really wanted to thank our staff, you know, the principals and everybody for really showing up and making it better than last year. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Ms. Trujillo. Are there any additional board reports or requests?
I just want to echo those
Hearing none, we'll move on to future.
Dr. Diaz. Sorry, I just want to echo the sentiments from Carmen. Just going out to those, thank you to Jessica Bueno and Board Member Carmen for putting that together. Just going out to those, it was really acknowledgement of how much our reality has changed from the onset, switching gears to literally just stopping learning and feeding our children, feeding the kids in the district and the community, to like see actually them being able to do the drive-throughs and see the happiness, the joy that was centered there. And that was wonderful. And props to all of the schools, and especially props to Herrera, who it was a parade. It was a festival. Families were coming through blasting music, and it was like simultaneously a Suns parade too, because they'd be like, "Go Adelina, go Suns!" And so it was like wonderful to see all that. So it filled my heart, and it was wonderful to see that. And I'm glad I got to meet a lot of more teachers and a lot more principals. And so for me, it was a good way to end this school year.
Thank you, Mr. Are there any additional reports or requests? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to future agenda items.
I have 3. The first one is a receive, discuss, and take possible action.
Hearing no future agenda, we will adjourn the meeting at.
Dr. Diaz, can you hear us?
Okay.
Oopsie.
So, Mr. Trujillo, you want to kind of round us out? Dr. Vink, you want to just continue on?
Okay, sorry.
So receive and discuss.
Take possible action to add board self-evaluations to the calendar. And the same, receive, discuss, take possible action to add a land acknowledgement to the beginning of our meetings.
Say that again.
To add a land acknowledgement to the beginning of our board meetings.
What does that mean?
It is an acknowledgement of the indigenous lands that
I'm
we're
sorry. Yes.
on. And then the third one is we do have our board approved a breastfeeding resolution a couple years back, and I would like to do a receive, discuss, take possible action to require each site to provide a space for lactation that includes a sink, ergonomic seat, locking door and refrigerator, and communicate the written policy to all employees.
And you want a future agenda item?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I'm back on. Dr. Vink, I apologize. Did you get through your agenda items?
I think so. Are you good, Dr. Weeks?
I think so.
Okay.
Okay, are there any additional future agenda items?
For me,
Okay,
can I
hearing
do a
none, the meeting
receive?
will adjourn at 8:56.
Sorry, no. Sorry, Dr. Diaz.
I apologize.
No. It's just because the time was articulating how to say, receive and discuss on a resolution for recent GPLET, a resolution focused on the board's support opposition of GPLETs that are impacting the district. And that could be receive and discuss, or have the resolution ready by then. And then that's it.
Okay, thank you. Are there any additional future agenda items? Okay, I do not hear any more, so we'll go ahead and move to adjourning the meeting at 8:58 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.